Hi, this is Dr. James Reade, chiropractic physician and certified functional medicine practitioner. So what do I mean by that you're toxic? I'm not saying that you have a toxic personality. We're talking about your body is actually being exposed to toxins on a daily basis, and it's actually being stored inside your body. And where do these toxins come from? Well, they can come from primarily from your food, okay? The water that you drink, the air that you breathe, probably some of the lotions and other compounds you put on your skin. But these are all the areas in which you're being exposed to on a daily basis, and we don't even recognize that. And some of these compounds can have serious health consequences in the future, and there may be even some connections with that and possibly with cancer. But basically these toxins, what they'll go ahead and do here, they can just play havoc with your metabolism. They can affect your thyroid. They can affect other parts of your hormonal system, blood sugar balance. It affects your body's ability to detoxify. And the toxins also, they're finding that actually affect your fat cells and also the quantity of them and also the type of fat cells you have. And in addition to that, it may also affect your genetic expression. So this is something that's actually pretty serious. It's kind of going on behind the scenes. And it's just very interesting. We're going to go ahead and delve into this particular topic here and take a look at the toxins that we may be exposed to on a daily basis and not even realizing it. And also, are there any particular solutions, and are there some ways that we can measure some of these things? But this is a really kind of a hot topic, and the scientists are beginning to realize that this is a worldwide type of issue. And it doesn't matter if you're in an underdeveloped country or overdeveloped country, whatever it may be, that they're just finding statistically everybody's gaining weight. And even the scientists are noticing that even their laboratory animals are gaining weight as well too over the years. So there's something else going on here. And I think looking at toxins might be one of the missing pieces here to explain why this is such a worldwide issue, and especially here in the United States as well. So let's go ahead and delve into that and explore this topic a little bit more. So one of the main things that we want to look at are your food sources. That would be the number one exposure to different toxins. Now, I'm just going to make a broad generalization here. I'm going to say that you'd probably be best off to avoid as many processed foods, fast foods as you can, the ones that are boxed, pre-prepared, frozen, highly preserved types of foods, ones that are non-organic, and those that are actually GMO. Okay, so those are just some broad statements as far as your food selections. Now, I do know that with regards to weight, everybody's concerned or at least aware of sugar and simple carbohydrates, which is quite true, can have an impact. But I know they're also talking about being more plant-based. Well, again, what you want to try to do is try to get as much of those foods, and yes, plant-based or even animal-based foods that are organic, wild-caught, as much as possible, because you're going to minimize your exposure to pesticides, herbicide residues. It could be, some growth hormones, antibiotics. It's very important whether you have plant-based or you also have animal products too. Eat organic as much as you possibly can, because that'll minimize your exposure to a lot of these different compounds. We also want to go ahead and probably avoid a lot of GMO foods. And the reason for that is this: they're finding that many of these GMO foods actually alter your microbiome. And there's a big connection between the microbiome and how it influences your immune system and can have an impact on your metabolism and also weight. So there's a huge connection there. So avoid the GMOs. Having the right type of dietary fiber, okay, is extremely important for balancing that microbiome, which again has this important influence on your overall metabolism as well. So those are some other particular types of suggestions I'm going to go ahead and make here to minimize your exposure to some of these things. Another thing to take a look at are actually our containers that we put our foods in or maybe cook them. So if you have microwave dinner or something like that, don't cook it in that plastic container. All right, that can leach into the container, especially when you heat it up. Plastic wrapping, other plastic containers. All right, avoid putting hot food in the containers. And what's also interesting, your takeouts, all right? Even if you'll take a notice that a lot of these containers actually have a lining on them, okay, to prevent leakage and so on. Well, some of those are not really good compounds too to be exposed to. And again, if it's heated up, guess what, all right? You increase the likelihood of some of this leaching into your foods. So go ahead and use glass containers as much as you possibly can. Which comes to a big point, guess what? Water. Okay, how many of us, go ahead and rely on the convenience of water bottles? Well, a lot of us do. And that's probably another big exposure to some of these potential toxins that can influence your metabolism and help you to be unable to lose your weight. So you may want to take a look at, some of these bottles as well too. I would suggest use more stainless steel. Try to use glass bottles if you have the ability to choose that, if you're out and running around and looking at the convenience store, what have you. But certainly that might be something to try to avoid. All right, one of the other things too, when you're taking a look at some of your bottled beverages and so on, particularly with the plastic ones, take a look at the bottom of the bottle and you'll see a little triangle and it has a number in it. It's called the recycle number. They're finding that you should really avoid ones that actually have 1, 3, 6, and 7. 2, 4, and 5 may be safer. Now, I do know that some would say they're BPA free. However, they're substituting with another type of plastic. They don't really know. At this point, that may be just as bad as the BPA. So once again, I want to emphasize, try to avoid, purchasing your beverages and the containers too that are made out of plastic. Try to minimize that as much as possible, and particularly the soft plastic ones, all right, are particularly prone to leaching into the material that is actually in those containers. So that's one other thing to go ahead and consider. So another area of exposure would be different types of cosmetics, different lotions, soaps that we go ahead and utilize on a daily basis. And many of these compounds, or I said, products contain the compounds like parabens, benzophenones, okay, bisphenols, phthalates. And these are often fat soluble. What does that mean? Well, in other words, they can get absorbed right through your skin, get into your lymphatic system and your bloodstream, and of course be spread throughout the entire body. And these particular compounds are going to introduce this idea about these toxins. They're also known as obesogens. So in other words, there's this connection between these toxins and how they affect actually your metabolism and lead to increased weight. So this is why they refer to them as obesogens. They're also known to be endocrine disruptors as well too. So I wanted to kind of bring those terms out to you so you're aware of it. So many of these things that are found in your food, your cosmetics, other areas, are considered obesogens as well as endocrine disruptors. Now, one other interesting thing I wanted to bring up was actually with feminine hygiene products. They may also contain some different compounds called obesogens, and it can be very irritating to the genitalia. And again, it can be easily absorbed through those areas as well. And so there are actually some research that has been taking a look at some of these compounds and their potential effect as well. Some other things to go ahead and consider too are some of your synthetic perfumes and fragrances. Also, some different compounds that may be found in hairspray, for example. So those are some other things that you might be exposed to. But rather than the skin per se, it could actually be absorbed through your lungs. So this is where you can also get some additional exposure to toxins as well. There's another set of some interesting compounds that you'd be exposed to that are actually found in nonstick cookware, different food containers, particularly stain resistant types of coatings or clothing, in your carpet, along your furniture, different textiles, floor polishes, paints, fire retardants, and those types of materials. And a lot of them are referred to as PFOAs or PFAs. So there are many, many of those, and they're well known to be obesogens as well. So another way of being exposed to things. We had, mentioned to you earlier, are cash receipts, okay? Especially ones that, you'll get from a typical, market or store. I suggest don't, maybe avoid getting them, or go ahead and fold, the part that is actually not printed so that you're not holding that, because there are actually bisphenols, okay, that are actually found a lot of times on these particular receipts. So try to avoid that as well. It can also be found in some of these bisphenols are also found in canned foods, your CDs, your DVDs, some, household electronics, other plastics, and other resins that are found in different consumer products. So again, I want you to just kind of be aware, of your exposure. Another one would be trichosilin, all right, which was used as a pesticide at one point, but because it has antibacterial properties. And it's well known to be an endocrine disruptor, here we go again, and an obesogen. And it was at one point widely used in, antibacterial soaps and lotions, hand sanitizers, actually certain mouthwashes and toothpastes. But in 2016, the FDA kind of banned a lot of these products. However, there's still certain types of toothpaste that help to prevent gingivitis, so they may be able to put some of that still in some of their products. So I just want you to be aware of it. But to date, this particular product could also be found in, guess what, yoga mats. All right, here you're trying to do some good things, but there it is, because it has antibacterial properties. It may be found in athletic clothing to reduce bacterial contamination. So there you go. It's like, here you think you're doing the right thing, and again, it seems to pop up here. So again, we wanted to go ahead. I know there seems to be so much, and at this point, it's like, my gosh, Dr. Reade, it just seems like just about anything and everything we do on a daily basis, we come in contact with some of these different toxins that are obesogens and endocrine disruptors, and that's exactly my point, all right? And we don't think about that. And then some of these things, you don't have to be exposed to large quantities, but it could be small quantities, on a daily basis or weekly basis. So to kind of wrap this, particular portion of their discussion here is that trying to avoid some of these compounds is probably the best thing that we can try to do, or at least minimize it. I mean, we live in a particular, society and so on, and culture that, it'll probably be almost virtually impossible to avoid any of these. But if we can minimize it, that's a huge step forward. And, looking at your foods is probably the biggest thing to go ahead and consider. So a little bit more about, how do these different toxins, which are called endocrine disruptors, and obesogens actually work. We're going to just briefly go over a few of their, and at least they're trying to do more research, but this is how they understand why they actually have an impact on your metabolism and affect your weight. To begin with, they're endocrine disruptors. Well, it disrupts your hormones, okay? What hormones? Insulin, okay? Leptin, which affects your appetite, ghrelin, your thyroid hormones, cortisol, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, okay? Just to name a few. So you begin to get the idea that it would ruin your hormonal regulatory cycles. It also, in particular, when it affects insulin and leptin, affects your appetite. It also affects blood sugar balance in your body. They also have an impact in these little organelles that sit inside your cell that produces energy, breaks down your fat. They're called mitochondria. So it'll actually ruin the mitochondrial function. Also, too, it can affect your sleep and wake cycles. And if you don't get proper sleep, that can affect your weight and your hormones. Also, it can increase the number of your fat cells, okay, the size of them. Also convert other cells into fat cells. And the fat cells also produce a lot more inflammatory cytokines. We may have referred to those previously. And these are little protein messengers that tell other cells what to do. So you can see here, they're beginning to understand some of the mechanisms of these obesogens and endocrine disruptors. But one other thing I wanted to mention too is that they can also affect the DNA expression, okay, of your cells. So they have really some important impact on your body physiology. So what is it that you can do now? I mean, I've presented this, picture here that doesn't look too promising, but there are solutions and there are things that you can take control of your life. And, one of the things that you should do is take a look at your food selection. And I'm going to mention some different foods here. And I just wanted to mention that they should be organic as much as possible. You want to have a detoxification type of lifestyle. So yes, you're being, exposed to these things daily. You want to be able to eat things that will help to get rid of it and encourage your body to do so. So one of the big things is cruciferous vegetables. What are those? All right. Well, there'd be things like arugula, bok choy, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, daikon, kale, mustard greens, radishes, rutabagas, turnips, watercress. Those are just some examples. Oh, collard greens too. What are some of the vegetables that are actually really, really good? Would be artichokes, extremely good. Asparagus, actually beets along with their leaves. Carrots, celery, cucumber, spinach, sweet potatoes. How about fruits? Would be apples, avocados, blueberries, grapes, all types of citrus, kiwi, pomegranate, raspberries. How about herbs? Okay, basil, burdock, cilantro, coriander, curcumin, dandelion, fennel, garlic, ginger, green tea, milk thistle, parsley. How about rosemary, schisandra, okay, turmeric, okay? Those are just some things that to take a look for. I'm also going to add chlorella and spirulina would actually be some good things to add maybe to a shake. Some quick supplements that can also assist you in detoxification be alpha lipoic acid, EGCG, which is mostly an extract from green tea, glutathione, okay, the main antioxidant, anti-inflammatory in your body. NAC, N-acetylcysteine, different probiotics because it affects actually your microbiome. Quercetin, resveratrol, okay, and other plant-based fibers, very important. Again, it affects your microbiome, which can have a huge impact on your weight. Some other things that you can do too to also help with the detoxification would be certain vitamins and minerals. So vitamins A, different B vitamins such as B1, B2, B6, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, okay, and vitamin K are really important. Now, on the mineral end of things, what's extremely important is magnesium, iron, selenium, and zinc. Well, okay, so we kind of mentioned the foods, the vitamins, minerals, but overall I want to kind of add a few more things that you can do here to help with your body in detoxifying and trying to go ahead and lose weight. So again, I'm going to reiterate, avoid drinking your beverages or things that are in plastic bottles and containers, all right? And avoid those recycle numbers 1, 3, 6, and 7, okay? Use, for your cookware, use stainless steel, use ceramic, use glass, use cast iron, or you can use enamel-coated cast iron cookware. The other thing is hydrate, okay? But get a good, healthy, filtered water, okay? And you want to go maybe about half of your body weight in water in ounces per day. Just a rough approximation, but hydration is important. How about intermittent fasting? That it would be another good thing to go ahead and do. Regular mild to moderate exercise a few times a week, and throw in some high intensity workouts as well. The other important thing would actually be far infrared treatments and how they can actually affect your body, release the toxins in your body as well. And we do have that available at our office. The other important thing too, you may want to go ahead and try to get something that has all these different vitamins and minerals and nutrients that we had mentioned to you, in addition to having a good diet, okay? The diet is probably the most important thing, but a lot of times, things are locked in. You've had issues, for quite some time. You may need, some of these extra vitamins and minerals and other compounds that might be available in some different detox kits. And we do have some of those available at our office as well, too. So that's another approach and something that can actually be done. Now, if you suspect that you may be having a lot of problems here with your weight and affecting your health, you can be evaluated here at our office. We have different tests to look for toxins and to assess what your body is actually doing. See if you're also deficient in different nutrients as well that would impede your body's ability to go ahead and recover. And if so, you can go ahead and contact my office at 480-732-0911. And one of my staff members will be happy to go ahead and consult with you and try to set up an appointment and an evaluation. We'll see what we can actually do for you. So once again, I want to go ahead and thank you for watching this video. You can also go ahead and if you like this, like us on Facebook, YouTube. You can take a look at our newsletters as well too. And we'll be adding more content. We'll be talking about other health issues as well. Once again, thanks for watching. This is Dr. Reade, chiropractic physician and certified functional medicine practitioner. Have a great day.